In the 1960s, twin-engine aircraft were killing pilots at an alarming rate. Not because engines were failing, because when one engine quit, the asymmetric thrust would violently yaw the aircraft toward the dead motor. If the pilot hesitated for even a second, the plane would roll inverted and slam into the ground. They called it the VMC rollover. It was nearly always fatal. Cessna engineers believed they had the solution. They would build a twin that couldn't kill you. By placing one engine in front and one in back, they eliminated asymmetric thrust entirely. Lose an engine, and the Skymaster simply flew straight ahead. No yaw, no roll, no death spiral. The FAA was so impressed, they created an entirely new pilot rating just for this revolutionary design. But here's where logic fails completely. Despite solving one of aviation's deadliest problems, despite the FAA endorsing its safety advantages, despite pilots desperately wanting twin-engine redundancy, the Skymaster became one of the most avoided aircraft in general aviation history. Pilots who would risk their lives in conventional twins refused to fly it. The reason why reveals something deeply uncomfortable about human psychology and the decisions we make when our lives are on the line. Here's what happens when an engine fails on a conventional twin. The moment one propeller stops turning, the remaining engine's thrust creates a violent yaw toward the dead motor. The pilot must immediately apply full opposite rudder while maintaining precise airspeed. Drop below the minimum controllable speed, and rudder authority vanishes completely. The aircraft rolls inverted. At low altitude, there's no recovery. This was the VMC rollover, and in the 1960s, it was claiming lives at an alarming rate. But here's what made the situation truly horrifying. Many of these deaths weren't happening in emergencies. They were happening in training. Flight instructors would actually pull the mixture to shut down an engine, simulating failure. Too often, that simulation became catastrophically real. Students would lose control. Aircraft would spin into the ground. The twin-engine rating that pilots desperately wanted was killing them before they could earn it. Cessna's engineers believed they could eliminate this death trap entirely. Their solution was radical. Instead of mounting engines on the wings, where they created asymmetric thrust, they would place one engine in front, pulling, and one in back, pushing. Centerline Thrust. Lose either engine, and the aircraft simply continued flying straight ahead. No yaw, no roll, no death spiral. The prototype first flew on February 28, 1961. Cessna called it the Skymaster, and the concept was so genuinely revolutionary that the FAA took unprecedented action. They created an entirely new pilot rating specifically for Centerline Thrust aircraft. This wasn't just another twin. This was a fundamentally different approach to multi-engine safety. The original Model 336 reached the market in 1963 with fixed landing gear and 195 horsepower engines. Pilots found it sluggish, underpowered. It sold modestly, just 195 units in a single year of production. But Cessna wasn't finished. In February 1965, they unveiled the dramatically improved Model 337 Super Skymaster with retractable gear and more powerful 210 horsepower Continental engines. This was the aircraft that would change everything. The promise was undeniable. Twin-engine redundancy without twin-engine danger. The FAA had endorsed it. The physics were irrefutable. Every pilot who feared the VMC rollover finally had an escape from that nightmare. So why didn't they take it? Because something unexpected happened when pilots actually encountered the Skymaster on the ramp. They didn't see an engineering triumph designed to save their lives. They saw something that challenged everything they believed about what a real airplane should be. The problems started almost immediately. The rear engine, tucked behind the cabin and starved of direct airflow during ground operations, ran dangerously hot. On sweltering summer days, it would simply quit while taxiing. The pilot, seated far forward with no direct view of the rear propeller, often had no idea the engine had shut down. They would advance the throttles, feel the front engine surge forward, and attempt takeoff on half the power they needed. The accidents mounted quickly enough that the FAA intervened. Airworthiness Directive 77-08-05 mandated something almost embarrassing for an aircraft designed around safety. Every Skymaster was required to display a placard with stark words that revealed the design's cruel irony. Do not initiate single-engine takeoff. But the mechanical issues were only part of the story. Mechanics dreaded the Skymaster. Its systems were crammed into tight spaces, making routine maintenance a nightmare. Annual inspections that cost a few $1,000s on conventional twins could run $12,000 to $16,000 on pressurized Skymasters. The aircraft developed a reputation as a maintenance hog, deserved or not, and that reputation spread through hangars like wildfire. Then there was the noise. The rear propeller sliced through turbulent air churned by the front engine, creating a distinctive howl that exceeded even a DC-6 in sheer volume. Passengers sat sandwiched between two engines, enduring vibration and racket that made conversation nearly impossible. Here's what really killed the Skymaster's commercial prospects. It wasn't the overheating. It wasn't the maintenance costs. It was perception. Pilots arriving at the ramp in their Barons and Aztecs looked at the Skymaster's ungainly twin-boom configuration, its push-pull layout, its strange proportions, and they saw something that wasn't quite legitimate. They called it the Mixmaster, the push-me-pull-you. Some dismissed it outright as an imitation twin. Think about this for a moment. The Skymaster eliminated the deadliest characteristic of conventional twins. Yet pilots treated that achievement as a weakness rather than a strength. Flying a real twin meant mastering the VMC challenge. The Skymaster made it too easy. Where was the skill in that? And here's the devastating twist nobody anticipated. By the mid-1970s, training doctrine changed completely. Instructors stopped shutting down engines. They simulated failures at zero thrust instead. The VMC rollover accidents that had terrified the industry became increasingly rare. The problem the Skymaster was designed to solve had quietly solved itself. But one customer didn't care about pilot ego or ramp appeal. The United States Air Force needed an aircraft that could fly low over hostile jungle, loiter for hours, marking enemy positions, and survive long enough to bring its crew home. They evaluated more than 100 civilian designs. In 1966, they chose the Skymaster, redesignated the O-2, and nicknamed the Oscar Deuce. Approximately 450 Skymasters deployed to Southeast Asia. The very characteristics that civilian pilots dismissed became tactical advantages in combat. The high wing provided unobstructed visibility of terrain below. The centerline thrust meant a pilot could lose an engine to ground fire and still maintain control while limping back to base. The push-pull configuration that looked ungainly on American ramps looked like survival over Vietnamese jungles. Forward air controllers flew the most dangerous missions of the air war. They plodded along at ridiculously low altitudes, marking targets with white phosphorus rockets, directing airstrikes while enemy gunners tracked their every move. As Colonel Tom Petitmamet wrote after flying 535 combat sorties, he carried direct power over the life and death of another person. There was virtually no margin for error when calling in strikes just meters from friendly troops. Christmas Day, 1967. Near the demilitarized zone, Major Jerry Sellers and Captain Richard Budka received word that a ground patrol was surrounded. They flew their O-2 directly toward the enemy positions. Then Sellers did something that defied all logic. He switched on his landing lights to draw fire away from the trapped soldiers below while directing an AC-47 gunship onto the enemy. Ground fire ripped through their aircraft. Both men died. The patrol survived. Sellers received the Air Force Cross posthumously. The Skymaster paid heavily for its service. 178 O-2s lost to all causes. 84 crewmen killed in combat. Yet pilots kept climbing into those cockpits, kept flying those missions, kept trusting the aircraft that their civilian counterparts refused to take seriously. The military wasn't finished with the Skymaster either. From 1991 to 2001, Cuban exiles flying Brothers to the Rescue missions chose Skymasters for humanitarian patrols over the Florida Straits. Their Centerline Thrust provided critical safety for 7-hour over-water flights searching for refugees. 2 of those Skymasters were shot down by Cuban MiG-29s in 1996, their crews dying while saving others. Nearly 3,000 Skymasters rolled off production lines before Cessna ended manufacturing in 1982. Today, a devoted community of owners still flies them, still champions them, still understands what the broader market never grasped. The Cessna Skymaster solved the exact problem it was designed to solve. The physics worked. The engineering was sound. The FAA agreed it was fundamentally safer, and pilots still refused to fly it. They chose conventional twins that could roll inverted and kill them in seconds. They paid more for aircraft with worse engine-out handling. They dismissed the Skymaster as somehow less than a real twin, even as military pilots trusted it over hostile jungles where a single mistake meant death. The lesson here isn't about aviation, it's about us. We tell ourselves we make rational decisions based on evidence and logic. But when it mattered most, pilots chose ego over engineering, perception over physics, tradition over survival. The Skymaster's commercial failure wasn't a failure of design. It was a failure of human psychology. Nearly 3,000 Skymasters were built. Today, a passionate community of owners still flies them, still defends them, still knows what the broader market never understood. Sometimes, the safest choice is the one that looks wrong to everyone else. The Skymaster was designed to save your life. The question was never whether it worked. The question was whether pilots could see past their own assumptions long enough to let it. Subscribe to discover more aircraft that defied expectations.